Good day, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the first day of spring in Vermont. My name is Richard Donnelly from Efficiency Vermont. Welcome to the webinar on Efficiency Vermont's Full School Energy Challenge for the 2012-2013 school year. Today we'll present to you information on an exciting new opportunity for Vermont's middle and high schools. The Whole School Energy Challenge is a program developed in partnership with the Vermont Energy Education Program, also known as VEEP, and the Vermont Superintendents Association School Energy Management Program, also known as VSA-SEMP. Before we begin, allow me to provide some very brief background on Efficiency Vermont and its partners, VEEP and VSA-SEMP. Efficiency Vermont is Vermont's statewide energy efficiency utility. In operation since 2000, our mission is to help all Vermonters reduce energy costs. We provide a range of services to accomplish this, including technical assistance and financial incentives. Efficiency Vermont is owned and operated by the Vermont Energy Investment Corporation. We are a ratepayer-funded program. The Vermont Energy Education Program has been operating since the 1980s, promoting energy literacy in Vermont schools and communities. They provide in-class presentations on energy, electricity, efficiency, and the environment. VEEP also provides teacher trainings, helping to incorporate these topics into existing curriculum. Their services are available at no charge to schools. The School Energy Management Program has been part of the Vermont Superintendents Association since the early 1990s. VSA-SEMP is available for consultation on all school energy issues. They will perform a free on-site energy assessment of your buildings, the famous SEMP reports. The site assessment includes a written report with recommendations for improving operations and the physical plant. VSA-SEMP also provides training for facility and administrative personnel on energy issues and advises on biomass and other renewable energy options. With me today is also Norm Etkin, Director of VSA-SEMP, and Wendy McCarroll, Managing Director of VEEP. They are on hand to help answer questions during the second half of the webinar. Today, in the first 15 or so minutes, we will provide an overview of the Whole School Energy Challenge, present a few highlights of our maiden voyage from this past year, discuss our process for selecting the next round of schools for the pilot, and explain what the next steps are for schools interested in applying. As I mentioned, in the second half of our webinar, my colleagues and I will answer any questions you may have about the program. I'll ask you all now to identify the question section on the right-hand side of your webinar screen. As we progress through the presentation, please send us any questions that you have, and we'll answer as many as possible today. If you missed something or want to review the information presented today, this webinar will be available along with the questions and answers later this week. We will be sure to notify you of its availability. The idea for the whole school, The idea for the Whole School Energy Challenge evolved from our collective experiences working with schools. Stated simply, we know that effective energy efficiency and conservation in a school involves much more than making improvements in technology, such as upgrading to a more efficient lighting or heating systems. How the school facility is managed and the choices that the entire school community make each day can have a significant impact on energy usage and thereby costs. With that in mind, the Whole School Energy Challenge is a program designed to engage your school community, from the students to the teachers, to the facility staff, to the administration, and a school year-long campaign of best practices. The Whole School Energy Challenge addresses policy, operations and maintenance, behavior, all in order to reduce the school's energy use and the associated costs, and, if successful, to help your school create a culture change among the stakeholders, resulting in greater energy awareness, sustained behaviors, and improved long-term energy management. The Whole School Energy Challenge program has a baseline goal of a 10% reduction of electricity and fuel use in your facility. How does this happen? What are the core strategies for achieving this? At the heart of the Whole School Energy Challenge is a commitment by the school to form a team and implement an energy reduction plan. We'll get into that in detail in a few minutes. The energy reduction plan, in general, consists of an integration of policy, operations, and maintenance best practices and a campaign of education that leads to action. To help the school team succeed, the program partners, Efficiency Vermont, BEEP, and VSA STEM, will benchmark your school's energy performance, help develop the action plan, provide a tool to track your energy usage, and consult with your team as you work to achieve your goal. We believe that these strategies, a commitment to form a team, implementing a practical plan for reducing energy use, and having the support from energy efficiency, energy management, and energy education experts can result in sustained energy savings year after year. The first step in the Whole School Energy Challenge is for your school to form an action team. Some have called it an eco team or a green team. An action team could include the principal, members of the facility staff, a teacher, and a group of students. Other configurations could work out as well, but a commitment from an enthusiastic group is critical to success. This team would make a commitment towards the goal, and in turn, Efficiency Vermont and its partners would make a commitment to helping the team. Step 2 is the benchmarking and opportunity assessment. We'll benchmark your energy use to evaluate how the school is performing before the challenge. This will also help us establish a baseline year from which we will be able to measure your energy savings. We'll also conduct an on-site assessment of the energy saving opportunities in your school. Step 3, creating a plan. Using the site assessment will help you create an action plan that includes a wide variety of energy saving opportunities through equipment upgrades, operations and maintenance strategies, and through student-led action. The plan will include the full site assessment report with a summary checklist of identified opportunities pulled from the report. In addition to the site assessment, as part of the action plan, a playbook with targeted activities for the students will also be provided. Step 4, implementing the plan. Efficiency Vermont and its partners will support your team as needed to help you execute your plan throughout the school year. We'll assign an energy challenge specialist from BEEP to each school. Additional technical assistance is available through VSA STEM and Efficiency Vermont. Further, to help defray the costs associated with equipment replacement or upgrades, your school may be eligible for financial incentives through Efficiency Vermont. Step 5, measuring and reporting results. Measuring your progress and communicating the results along the way is a critical part of the energy challenge. The amount of electricity and fuel you use each month will be captured and tracked. This data is compared against the established baseline, adjusted for weather differences, and tallied towards the 10% reduction goal. Think of it like a marathon, and you are on mile 12, and we'll help you understand if you are on pace, ahead, or behind. This will be a lot less painful than running a marathon, of course, and we'll assist you with the creation of monthly reports and developing an outreach and communications plan to maximize the impact of the results. So now that we reviewed the what it is and how it works, let's spend a few minutes on the challenge timeline and how it unfolds. It may seem odd at first, but we set the challenge year to run from May 2012 through April 2013. There's a good explanation. Since this is a year-long, a 12-month challenge that is designed to be renewed each year, we felt it was important for the school to be able to celebrate at the end of it. In order to prepare the final reports in time for a celebration, we measure energy use through April so we can deliver a final report by the end of May 2013. With the final report, the school can announce and celebrate the results. Also, keep in mind that what happens in the first few months of the challenge period, in particular June through August, is critical since the school breaks for summer and is largely unoccupied. We'll work with your facility staff to make sure that you have an effective summer shutdown of systems and eliminate unnecessary plug loads. This will give your school a good start even before the action team gets to work, which is typically in the fall. School selection for the next Energy Challenge will occur next month through an application process, and we'll describe that in a few minutes. At this stage, the key step coming out of this webinar is for the school to identify a few enthusiastic adults that want to play a leadership role as part of a team. It's helpful too, if you can, identify and recruit a few students who will be returning next year and get them excited about the challenge. If selected, your school and Efficiency Vermont will sign a participation agreement in May to make sure the various roles and responsibilities of the whole school energy challenge are perfectly clear. This is not a legal contract, simply a memorandum of understanding. There are no required costs to participate. With the agreement in place, we'll benchmark your school's performance using Energy Star Portfolio Manager and establish your baseline year. We'll also conduct a facility assessment or update one that already exists, and from that assessment, we'll create the checklist which will form the basis for the action plan. Late in the summer, we'll convene a training for the school teams to review the challenge process, review the playbook, share ideas, and discuss strategies for success. In the fall, we can now coordinate a fantastic and free assembly kickoff with ACE, the Alliance for Climate Education. After the kickoff, it's action time for the team. How often the team meets and what they do depends on the people involved, but typically a team will meet 1 to 3 times per month with tasks and activities taking place in between. Some school teams might form committees and work together. Some schools have individuals that were inspired to take on multiple responsibilities. Your Energy Challenge specialist can help your team decide how it wants to operate and how to prioritize activities. An important piece to accompany the actual implementation of the energy-saving actions is to document what actions you took. Acknowledging what you did to achieve a goal will be valuable in the evaluation. Speaking of evaluation, each month, beginning in October, the school will receive a report that estimates the progress towards the 10% reduction goal. The report can be used as part of the overall communication strategy the team can take, sharing it as they see fit. For example, you might want to acknowledge the facility manager or the team in a public way, or share the results with the school board every month, or with students and other teachers not involved in the challenge, or with your local newspaper. The goal would be to acknowledge the success and folks involved and to build awareness, recognition, and participation. The monthly report is also an opportunity to learn about what's working and what's not and adjust the strategies if necessary. At the end of the challenge, of course, celebrations are in order. It can be helpful as you progress through the Energy Challenge to envision how you want to acknowledge and celebrate your achievement. Here's an example of a school in the Northeast Kingdom that has had great success. Lake Region Union High School has a long list of energy-reducing activities that they have implemented through the challenge period. What you see listed here is only a partial list of actions they have taken. The leadership in this school is outstanding. They have a science teacher who has engaged students year after year with energy-related projects. Their principal is a champion among champions when it comes to motivating folks to get involved and in convincing his school board of the value of making energy efficiency investments. Their facility staff has been proactive, making sure that the scheduling of heating systems is optimized and not wasteful. And last but not least, a group of students have seized the day and become leaders in their school, auditing the building and evaluating the options. Here's another great example from this past year. Champlain Valley Union High School. The school has a deeply rooted culture of student engagement. Over 100 students were involved one way or another in the Energy Challenge. Katie Antos-Ketchum, the teacher at CVU, told us that their facility manager was completely on board, and from his perspective, having the student group completely involved gave him additional leverage because there was a massive push to reduce energy consumption coming from the students. One of the things that we've learned from Katie, who really took this challenge head on, was that having 2 to 3 adults share the role of coaching makes things much easier. So we are now at the beginning of a process to expand the number of schools in our pilot program by up to 10 schools. Hopefully this webinar has some of you thinking about taking on the energy challenge at your school, and I'm certain you have a number of questions. We'll get to those in a few minutes. As a reminder, please send us your questions to the questions module on your webinar screen. At the risk of stating the obvious, we're looking for schools that have a strong interest in this idea, schools that would like to make a commitment to taking action and developing an opportunity for their students, and for schools that have the capacity to succeed. As we mentioned earlier, having a few key and enthusiastic staff members, be it the principal or teachers or somebody from the community, makes a huge difference. Schools that have an eco or environmental club might easily transition that group into being the action team for the energy challenge. The environmental or science clubs may seem like obvious choices, but it could just as well involve members of the FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, making the business case for energy efficiency and thinking about effective ways to market energy awareness. If your school already has some sustainability-related efforts underway, such as recycling or composting, it's not a stretch now to include energy as an additional waste stream to reduce. One of the positives about the energy challenge is that reducing energy is measurable. So when a team takes action, the results can be easily quantified and communicated. We are favoring high schools for the challenge. The math and science skill sets tend to be better suited for some of the activity, plus they can often work independently. Having said that, we know that there are middle schools out there that have what it takes, and we'll make room in the pilot for a few. For schools not selected, we are in the early stages of developing a do-it-yourself model for the challenge, particularly for those schools who have limited capacity but have a strong energy champion that wants to take action and demonstrate the results. So what are the next steps? After this webinar, we'll send you an application and a copy of this presentation with the questions from today. The application is fairly simple. It asks for a list of individuals who support the application, for example, the principal, facility manager, teacher, students, other staff, or community members, information about any student environmental clubs or any other energy-related activities your school is involved with, and a brief narrative on why your school would be a good fit for the pilot. We will email the applications for the Energy Challenge tomorrow morning. They will be due on April 12th, and we'll notify the schools by May 1st. We're at the question portion of our webinar, and we're going to bring online Norm Etkin from the School Energy Management Program and Wendy Mercado from the Vermont Energy Education Program. So bear with me 1 minute and we'll introduce those folks. Okay, Norm and Wendy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. And hello, everyone. This is Norman.
Wendy?
Hi, everyone. It's Wendy. I can hear you.
Great. Wendy, you sound a little faint, so if you could either speak up or move closer to the mic, that might help.
Is this better?
Yes, much.
All right, great.
Great. So we have quite a few questions already coming in, and let me see if I can direct these to first one going to Wendy. Here, Wendy. There's a question here about the percentage mix of students to adults on the action team. What types of examples can you provide based on the pilot we've done so far?
Well, it really varies according to the school. We had at Champlain Valley Union High School a very heavy number of students compared to faculty involved. Katie had her hands full with the environmental club called Enact and ended up setting up committees to organize the students because there were, I think, technically over 100, but in terms of the actual number that were regularly involved, it was in excess of 60, 65 kids that were taking part in these different activities. And then at other schools, there were probably fewer students than there were adults, and that was one of the goals for the next year, is to get more student engagement. one way that we have found is helpful to engage students is through this initial ACE assembly program, the Alliance for Climate Education. They are able to come in and give a 45-minute all-school presentation that really inspires kids to understand what the challenge is and want to do something about it. And following the presentation, names are collected of students who may want to be part of some environmental group to participate in the whole school energy challenge. So that's been very effective.
Great. Thanks. Question for Norm. Norm, somebody's asking that, saying that they've implemented many energy efficiency measures this year. Are they still a good fit for this program?
That's a good question. I think that in general, a lot of the savings that can be had through this program have to do with the behavior of the occupants of the building and not the efficiency measures that may have been instigated at the school or implemented. So there's typically a lot of opportunities still in how the buildings are operated and how people in the building react with that building to try to reduce its energy use.
Great, and I'll add to that, Efficiency Vermont has been involved with projects that involve equipment and upgrades and such. And so if the person submitting that question is referring to projects, then I'll echo Norm's answer is that yes, projects certainly result in great savings for schools, and they tend to be sustained savings because of the equipment, the difference in the efficiency of the equipment. But the operations and maintenance changes and behavior changes from the team results in this additional savings, which is can be non-trivial for schools. Okay, a question for Wendy. How many hours per week or month, on average, will I need to commit to this effort?
Oh, that varies as well. I think we just recently sent out a survey to various people at each of the 5 pilot schools who had participated in the challenge. And one specifically said that he thought it would be good to plan on about 2 hours a week to devote to activities related to meeting with students and then following up with various tasks associated with projects that they may be involved with. So it really kind of varies according to which projects are undertaken. One of the strategies I think that's really helpful is to select something initially that's fairly simple, straightforward, and likely to succeed, something that would be not too difficult in terms of time or energy commitment, and then building from there. So you can have some early successes along the way. But maybe 2 hours, as just a rough estimate, maybe 2 hours a week, and having a couple people that would be able to share responsibilities is also very important.
Great. Thank you, Wendy. A question for Norm. And this is a good question. It kind of follows up on the last question that we sent to you. If it takes money to save money, it takes money to save money. Is this true?
Not always. As a general rule, certainly for the equipment replacement with more efficient equipment, obviously you have to spend money on that. But some of the work that we've done evaluating some of the schools and programs have shown that there can be very substantial savings just from the way the buildings are being operated and by the behavior. So when you do those things, you might be able to save 10 to 15% of the school's energy use with really zero investment dollars aside from people's time and energy, which of course is very important, but doesn't have a dollar bill attached to it.
Great, thank you, Norm. A question for Wendy. Can you speak to the effectiveness of high schools versus middle schoolers? High schoolers versus middle schoolers versus elementary aged kids?
Well, the skill set that high school students have makes them much more independent in doing some of the activities that are suggested in the playbook. Not that those are the only activities that the school would do, but certainly working with some Excel spreadsheets and gathering kilowatt hour information from these kilowatt meters that can be used to do plug load surveys and the like. You know, there are definitely advantages to high school students being involved. That being said, we know that middle school students have oftentimes the skills to be able to do this, and often also more enthusiasm and willingness to get involved and take on projects that are kind of above and beyond the scope of what the class and school requirements are. And so we've had some really great success with middle school students taking the lead in some of these projects, like at Waits River School. They've had middle schoolers, and at Twinfield also they've had middle school students be involved. Now there are a couple elementary schools that have a huge commitment to environmental activities and sustainable practices already. I could list, you know, half dozen or so just off the top of my head that I think would be really good candidates eventually. And it may be that the program will evolve to be able to accommodate them at some point down the road. But we're hoping to engage them in ways that are less formalized maybe this coming year. So does that cover the bases?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Wendy. I have a question for myself. Self, what are the costs associated with my participation? The Whole School Energy Challenge does not require any upfront cost for the school to participate. There may be costs, there may be some expenses that come up during the year that the school wants to use for certain activities that the kids might be involved in. And we also are working with a few different companies looking at the tracking tools that we have. And some of those tools may be available on a subscription basis. But the first year of the challenge, there are no costs associated with school participation. We have a question here for Norm. Norm, the questioner writes, our building is only 15 years old. Will this hurt our participation?
Well, you know, it's kind of similar to the other questions in that you can have a brand new building and not be operating it to its maximum efficiency, and for that matter, the way the occupants of the building are in terms of what they're doing. They may not be shutting lights off, they may not be shutting off equipment, the kind of things that, you know, can be addressed in the energy challenge. You know, certainly, you know, some of the older buildings have a lot more opportunities for replacement of equipment, but the focus of the Whole School Energy Challenge is really more on trying to capture, you know, the type of operational behavior savings that are available at little no cost and really have generate significant savings that have been proven. So I don't think you should be put off by the fact that you've got a newer school. In some cases, there are actually better opportunities because you have better systems that you can work on and improving the way some of the controls operate and so forth.
Great answer, Norm. Question for Wendy. Can you explain where the education piece happens? Is it in the classroom?
It can be in the classroom. VEEP is available to come into specific classrooms to do presentations, and those are available at no charge, and those are all listed on our website. It can also be through the action teams where our VEEP challenge specialist comes in and works with a group of students to help them understand one of the projects, whether it's a plug load survey or a lighting survey or looking at mini fridge uses throughout the school, whatever it is, trying to help guide them through the process where they understand the energy, the impacts on their energy and electricity use. So the education piece can be as involved as the school wants it to be. And obviously VEEP is very interested in trying to promote energy literacy, so we're ready, willing, and able to come in as needed to help out.
Great. We have a question. Somebody with a keen eye on one of the slides saw that there was, I think it was the CVU energy report for February, saw that there was energy savings listed as a percentage, 10%, and then there was an avoided cost figure. I believe it was $12,500. And they asked how we calculate these costs. And the answer to that is that the avoided cost represents the amount of money that the school would have spent at today's energy rates had their energy usage remained the same as the baseline from the previous year. The cost of the energy fluctuates during the year, and this metric provides a more accurate savings number than the savings the schools will see on their bills. So a kilowatt hour saved today may actually be worth more than a kilowatt was a year ago, and what we do is calculate what that difference is based on how much they saved. That does bring up another topic, and some of the schools that participated this year were wondering, now that we've saved the school $10,000, is there some way that we can use some of that savings to do some more activities in this area with the students, or even make an investment in the school for an equipment upgrade as part of the challenge? And that gets into a tricky conversation because with budgets and such, and the way that the decisions for budget expenditures are made. But we do have we are working with some schools now, sort of upfront, discussing some ideas with the school board or with the principal to allocate some of the savings that they achieve, or if they achieve it, or when they achieve it, to certain types of activities or investments. So that's one thing we've learned, is sort of maybe have that conversation upfront.
Yeah, Richard?
Yes.
Might want to add something to that. The savings that you saw there were the electrical savings only. Now, in most cases, there will also be fuel savings. That hasn't been calculated yet because we're waiting to get complete data. So the savings that you saw there were just on the electrical side.
Right. Good point, Norm. We have a couple of more questions here as soon as Chris passes them over. And just to remind the audience, if you have any questions resulting from the questions and answers, please enter them in the question module on the screen there. Okay, so Norm, here's a question for you. How do you figure the baseline year? What year do you use as your baseline year?
Basically, it would be the previous year's month that we're looking at currently. So, for instance, if we're looking at the month of December, we'd be looking at last year's December versus this year's December to see what the difference in electrical use was.
Great. Thank you, Norm.
Yep.
I think we have another question coming. Hold on. Hot off the press. Wendy, this is a question for you. Can the energy challenge be part of a class?
Yes, it can be, and it has been part of a class at Waits River. The 8th grade science class took this on as a project. I think in Lake Region too, that it was at one point part of a physics class, if I'm not mistaken. But it absolutely could be part of a class. It would depend on obviously how much the teacher had flexibility to control the curriculum of that class. So something that was an elective, for example, would be an ideal class to base this challenge on. So that would be awesome.
Yeah, my imagination was spinning there. That sounds like a really great opportunity and probably very productive.
Yeah, they would learn a lot.
Yeah, you'd have a built-in schedule with a captive audience and a leader, and your grade would be based on how many kWh, how many kilowatt hours you saved, right? Well, maybe we don't need to go that far with it, but I think that's the end of the questions. I wanted to give both Wendy and Norm a chance to say something at the end if they want, and then we'll wrap it up. But while they're talking, if there's other questions that you still have out there, please send them in while they're giving their final word. Wendy?
Yeah, well, one of the things I've been looking at over the past few days are these surveys from the participants of the pilot challenge that we ran this year. And one of the questions in the survey was, what do you think are some of the keys to success for schools interested in meeting the 10% goal of the challenge? And I particularly like a couple of the answers that I'd like to share with you, because I think they really get to the heart of what makes a program successful. The principal at CVU says student leadership, faculty advisor leadership, knowledge and passion, faculty and staff awareness and support, maintenance director leadership, and then in all caps, people, people, people. So basically it does boil down to getting people engaged in changing behavior and taking actions that are going to make energy use more efficient at the school. And it really is important to have a broad base of support from the top down. You know, the administration, the facilities manager, teachers, students, community members, as many people as you can get involved. And that's
Great.
it.
Thank you, Wendy. Norm, would you like to have, well, it may not be the final word, but would you like to say something about the Whole School Energy Challenge?
Oh, okay. I'll say a few words. Basically, you know, this is an opportunity for students and faculty and other personnel at the school to really achieve substantial savings at the school through their work. That saves money, it saves energy, saves greenhouse gases, and you can really feel like you've accomplished something when you've done this. And the savings are there to be had. It's a question of, you know, the Whole School Energy Challenge is really a way to help the school, people at school work to achieve those savings. And they're very real, and they'll be monitored so you'll know just what you get out of it. So it could be a lot of fun.
Great. Thank you, Norm. We do have one final question. Just came across the wire here for Norm. Can you tell us how you account for the impact of warm weather? I don't know where they're talking about warm weather here in Vermont. You kidding?
I don't. It's a good question. Of course, the exact methodology gets a little complicated. Obviously, there's degree days, but you also have to take into account exactly how schools are heated and balance point temperatures and so forth. So it does get complicated, but in order to do that comparison, you have to get into the weeds a little bit and try to get an apples-to-apples situation. So that's what's done. This year is going to be rather extraordinary.
Great. And it is beautiful outside today, so I don't want to keep anybody longer than we have to. Just to wrap up, I want to thank everybody for attending this webinar. And those schools that are attending will automatically get the application, and the questions and answers will be typed up and distributed as well. I want to also thank Wendy Mercado from VEEP and Norm Etkin from the School Energy Management Program. And on behalf